Yes, this is chapter 1. It's cold here in Minnesota. It's about 16 degrees with a feel of 8. And it's February in Minnesota. And I think it's February all over the world. It's not that I want to make a lot of funny jokes, but I have something serious. I want story time right now. I'm not going to take my hat off, but I do want to tell you a few stories. Number 1 is going to be a true story about myself. About in 2004, I believe it was, I was forced to go into a project where they could monitor my money and stuff like that, so I had to get a regular check. And so I had to take a meat cutting job, which actually included the kill floor. I had to shoot the cow in the head, morbid. I had to also string up the pigs while they're still alive, hook them onto the cable, grab their ear, they're trying to bite you, take a knife, cut in here, straight up and down, not sideways, you cut into the meat. In about 30 seconds, in about a minute, the pig stopped moving and was dead. So they bleed out very fast. I also had to do sheep. Sheep, you take it sideways like that, plunge it through and cut out. And blood flows into the barrel once they're hanging. Something strange about sheep though. They'll lick. If blood's flowing on your hands, they will actually lick the blood off your hands. It's amazing. The Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, will do the very same thing. We all have blood on our hands. And Jesus, if you allow him to do it, he'll lick the blood off your hands. But that's not what I want to talk about. But the butcher shop, the part that I want to mention is that it took about 30 seconds to about a minute. And it was dead. So that's the first story. Second one I'm going to make up. Suppose I'm driving in the dark across the desert, and I see a car a mile up ahead, and I see one about 3/4 mile up ahead, and I see one about a half and about a 1/4 mile, and here I come. It's dark, but the one that's a mile out just drops out of sight. Boy, that was kind of weird. I can see a city way up ahead lit up 10 miles out there in the dark, but that was strange. 3/4 mile, boom, car disappears. Half mile, boom, disappears. This is not quite right. Something's wrong. 1/4 mile, boom, the car disappears. I slowed down, way down, and if I had not slowed down, I would have run right into a cliff. A bridge was out. Cars were just piling down in the bridge. Okay, that's a made-up story. So, end of chapter 1. So let's continue. Chapter 2. So the bridge is out. I take a flashlight, I shine down there, I see cars down there, I see death. Okay, this is a made-up story. I back up real quick. I turn back. I'm going to warn other people not to go over that cliff. It's dark. You don't see it until last minute, and it's too late. Okay? Now, if I'd be screaming at the cars, stop, waving at them, don't go, and they're going over the cliff, would I be a bad person trying to warn them? Why do they honk their horn at me and swerve around me? Am I a bad person? That's the same thing about the story time right now that I want to tell. The third story. Because I don't want people to go over the cliff. The third story is a story that was written in 1984. The book was written in 1984. The incident that he's talking about happened 3 years earlier. It was a man that had a sick mind, and he wanted to commit suicide. So, I'm going to read that story to you. There was one time that I had just about all that I had taken, just about all that I could stand. I had a meat cleaver that had stood between me and danger many times. This is a meat cleaver. They make heavier ones than that. Look how easy it goes here. Sticks right into the wood. It's nice. I had a meat cleaver that stood between me and the danger many times. It was my weapon of defense. That was what I clung to for protection from anything that would hurt me. I decided that it would be my last and best friend and that I would use it to end my life. So, he continues. Putting my arm in the sink and running the hot water over it, I decided that I would cut my arms off. I was so distraught and out of dope. I had been strung out on Dilaudid and heroin for a long time, that I didn't want to live anymore. As I laid my arm there in the hot water, I slashed it right down to the bone with a meat cleaver. My arm was just hanging. I turned to hack the other arm off, but of course, I couldn't. Someone saw the blood spattering all over the walls and windows. As they walked by the room, they rushed in and tried to hold me while they called the ambulance. End of chapter 2. Chapter 3. Let's continue. So there's blood spattered. They rushed in, tried to hold me while they called the ambulance. I was determined to get away from them so that I could die. I broke away and ran out of the hotel, but only made it 5 blocks. They found me sitting unconscious against the wall of a Greyhound bus depot. I nearly bled to death. I don't remember going to the hospital. I don't remember the doctor stitching my arm up or anything that they did to me. Now, let's pick the story apart. Let's read it again. There was one time that I was had taken just about all that I could stand. I had a meat cleaver. Okay, he's going to use a meat cleaver, and I didn't have this quite right prepared. Here's a chunk of meat. There's a bone here, and meat. This would resemble an R. So, how much would it take to meet a meat cleaver? See that? Bone cut right through. Meat cleaver is not very favoritism to anything, not discriminatory. So, I had a meat cleaver that had stood between me and danger many times. It was my weapon of defense. That was what I clung to. Okay, but putting my arm in the sink and running hot water. What happens when you put hot water on? Makes the blood flow faster. So you're increasing the blood flow. Over it, I decided that I would cut my arms off. So, I mean, if you have a desire to take it off, you're going to have a little force on it. I was so distraught and out of dope. I had been strung out on dilute and heroin for a long time that I didn't want to live anymore. So if he was out of dope, the thing is, this story could possibly be true if he was not on heroin. Heroin does the opposite. But meth, you go like a little bunny rabbit, like a little, what was that called? A bunny rabbit, energized bunny rabbit. Just go, and can't stop, like the commercials there. I've heard cops having shoot an individual 30 times before they finally drop. So, but he was not on that. He was not on heroin. He was out of dope. So how can this story make sense? End of chapter 3. Start chapter 4. We mentioned here that if he would have been on meth, he might have been able to do it. I talked to an anesthesiologist in the last few weeks, trying to check out the story here, and he says, if he was on meth, there is a slight possibility that this could have happened because a meth person, shoot him 30 times. He said he had a situation where the person was high on meth, cut his hand, and it took twice as much anesthesia than it would for a normal person. So they're just like little Energizer bunnies. So, as I laid my arm there in the hot water, I slashed it right down to the bone. We saw how fast it slashes, okay? If it was just a little bit, bleeding a little bit, then the rest wouldn't make sense. My arm was hanging, so that means you hit it hard. I turned to hack the other arm off, but of course I couldn't, because the arm was useless. It wouldn't grab anything. All the tendons are gone. Your arm is worthless. Someone saw. Isn't that amazing when you want to commit the act of being able to get rid of out of this world, goodbye, old cruel world, and then somebody has to see you just at the wrong time. They saw the blood spattering. You're in a motel room. Bathrooms are usually on the other end. What kind of motel room is there that they could look in and see the blood spattering? How bad was it? All over the walls and windows. That's an artery. That is not just a little superficial cut, paper cut. This is bad then. As they walked by the room, why would they be walking by the room just at the wrong time and then looking in? They rushed in. Why would they be able to rush in? Didn't he have the doors locked? Did he have it leaving open? Advertising, I'm going to cut myself now, I'm going to die. So they're rushing in. While they called the ambulance, they tried to hold me. They rushed in and tried to hold me. Earlier in the book, he mentioned I was down to 100 pounds. I was just a weak little skeleton, just a little bit of meat on my bones. God has been, had forsaken me. It's all God's fault. Anyway, he was down to 100 pounds. How can somebody not hold a 100-pound little, scrawny little character while they called the ambulance? How could they call the ambulance? Did they have cell phones back in 1981? If he's living in a bad part of town? I was determined to get away from them so that I could die. I broke away and ran out of the hotel. Now, I got to introduce something that happened 2 paragraphs earlier, but I'm going to do it on next chapter. Let's continue with chapter 5. 2 paragraphs earlier, I said, he wrote this. I remember one time that I was so hungry, I was too weak to sit through a service at the mission in order to try to get something to eat there. I was too weak to sit up that long. I thought, if I can make it to the corner store and steal a bag of beans and make it home and wait until some of those beans are totally done, I'll eat them. I went to the store and tried to steal a bag of beans. I well remember it. As I put them under my coat, the bag broke and the beans spilled out all over the floor. They hopped like a bunch of marbles. There I was in such a weakened condition that I could hardly put one foot in front of the other. Here he is, 2 paragraphs earlier. He's in this weakened state. He's near the end when he wrote this part. And now he ran out of the hotel. Here he couldn't run, but here he could run. But only made it 5 blocks. 5 blocks. He cut his wrist, slashed it to the bone. Somebody saw. He had hot water. Blood was flowing fast. Now he's going to be running. He's too weak to run, but he can run now. Blood is just a-flowing. And he still could make it 5 blocks. Why wasn't he in the Olympics? He could have been the fastest runner by easy. In 30 seconds to a minute, what it takes a person to die. Now I got another story. A few weeks ago when I all of a sudden thought about this book, I thought, wait a minute, how long does it take? I grabbed my phone and called up. How long does it take? I talked into the phone. How long does it take to bleed out if you chop somebody with a meat cleaver? Boom! Instantly I was connected to a suicide hotline. Whoa. If I hung up, it would be worse. So, hey, hello? They were kind of tense. I says, I am not suicidal. I'm just doing a research. I wanted to know. So that was a stupid thing. So I talked with them about 5-10 minutes. I says, I'm just doing a research on a story of an individual that claimed that he done this. So here he is. He ran 5 blocks. They found me sitting unconscious. Who's the they? They found me. Did the cops wait about an hour and all of a sudden seen him? Against the wall of Greyhound bus depot. Why would a Greyhound bus depot be there? So that's the end of that chapter. Chapter 6, finish this part of it off. So what took place? He ran. All this thing, if you look at all the evidence, he wasn't on dope, blood spattering, arm hacked off, slashed with a meat cleaver. He ran 5 blocks, everything. They couldn't hold him, 100 pounds. Here he could run, there he could not run. It finally gets down, and then 3 years earlier than that, and you take this little booklet here, he lifted me out, is by Danny Lane. Danny Lane, who is he? In the back of the book, he has pictures. Here he has a picture of himself when he was all drugged out in heroin. And do you see any marks on his arms? I don't. Then the very next page is a little different. He's got a long sleeve shirt on and stuff like that. And there he is. He became a minister then, bragging about this story. The thing is, I never saw him. Can anybody ever remember where he had perfect exterior? He just pages. He had perfect dexterity. Why would that be so significant? Back in 1984, 83, 81, they didn't have it. But then he made up a big thing, started church, where he says 1980 he came out. And that's when the church started. He created a church, and he called it the Restoration. And that is the foundation of what it is. So now I'm going to have number 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, but I'm going to have a little more expo coming up soon. Thank you. Chapter 7. It is March 2nd now. It's a lot warmer. I could take my hat off. It's nice. But I want to continue with the story. Now that I put a little doubt on this story, I'm wondering if this story is correct too. Could you imagine what kind of unlucky situation it was? I mean, I can stick it in the pocket. I can take it under my shirt. I can, whatever pocket it is. I mean, I mean, you can slam this thing down. Why would the bag bust open? I thought if I can make it to the corner store and steal a bag of beans, I'll eat them, take them home, fry them. As I put them under my coat, the bag broke and the beans spilled all over, bouncing around like marbles. Well, what the kind of situation is he the most unluckiest man there is? So I have my doubts. Another thing, he said in the book that his blood veins were used up. He hit every single vein. So if he could not take any more blood veins, technically he's over heroin then, because he has no more veins to puncture. Isn't that correct? I think this whole book is a book of lies. I believe it's a whole book of lies, and people still elevate him up high. Let me tell you some of the other things that I know about Danny Lane. He started the Restoration. They called it the Restoration, but it's not official yet. Until, could you imagine if I gave you $5 or $10 or $100, and you have a nice house, you got a nice property, whatever like that, and a year later, all of a sudden I get angry at you, and I'm going to sue you for it? That's what they did to the Nooksack campground. Nooksack, Washington was a campground there. The people themselves decided to split away from him. Oh, he was so angry. He had to fight a lawsuit. Well, if he has to fight a lawsuit, he could not just be Church of God, because Church of God is a universal name around all the world. So it had to be something, so they used Restoration, and then it became officially known as Church of God Restoration, COGR. And so they lost, and I was happy about that. Another thing, whenever he went to a camp meeting or something, he always got the best accommodations. He had his own private bathroom and all that stuff, and everybody else had to pay for theirs. So he was, did that appear to be Christ-like? Christ always had the worst part. Birds have nests, foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his nest. But Danny Lane always had to have the best. Next thing, I remember one time, I was newly there, first year I think, and a car pulled in. And a guy came out, started walking to me. Here comes Danny Lane, just busting up and just, get out of here, you are not welcome here, and sent him away. So, end of chapter 7. Number 8, chapter 8. I want to continue talking about Danny Lane. I'm wearing a red shirt. This is my work shirt. But Danny Lane hated colors like that. Had to be black, blue, or gray. But he cut down on red. So this is contributing to the beautiful Mr. Danny Lane. So anyway, let's go back to the story. There was a situation in California where the mother was called in to Danny Lane's headquarters, to his office, to witness, to teach her how to spank a teenager. That teenager was misfit or something like that. So Danny was carrying on, banging on, yelling and screaming and carrying on. The mother came to me later, about a year before I left the cult, and she told me about that. She says he was carrying around acting like a demon-possessed individual. She says she never saw anything like that. What, was he trying to scare the devil out of the boy, or what? There were other things. A couple one time stayed in Ludlow Falls campground. That's by West Milton there. And it was supposed to be quiet time. They were quiet, but they heard some kind of hustle going on, rustle going on outside, commotion. And they took the curtain and opened it up a little bit, and they could see Danny Lane, a little 3, 4, 5-year-old boy, picking him up, throwing him down, slapping him up, kicking him while he's down, picking him up, just chewing him out good for not doing his Sunday school verse or something with some kind of discipline. They looked at that, and that is who we're following. They told that story to me about just a few months before I got out of the cult. So what caused me to get out of the cult? I got out of the cult because of color. I didn't see it, but I, complied to their motives. But the thing that got me the most is their medicine. They were against medicine. They believed in divine healing. I have no problem with it, as long as you got some divine healer person in there that can do it. But they didn't have the substance, but they preached it. And they rebuked anybody that wouldn't comply to it. I had a son that had asthma. I got tired of watching him getting sick. So I got an inhaler. And I gave it to him. I was approved. You think you're going to get the children? You will not get the children. You know, they were against me. So anyway, I just refused to comply to it. Today, they all have medicine. They all go to doctors that I know of. A lot of people do C-sections, whatever it is. So it is good. End of 8. So what was the final straw that finally allowed me to break away from them, get pushed out, excommunicated, whatever it took? Okay, it was my mom died in January of 2002. In 2002, she died. My dad was going downhill. He was married to her for 45, 50 years, whatever it was, and he was falling apart mentally. He begged me to come, please, for Easter Sunday. I had told my wife about that, and she says, no, we just were there. I know, for the funeral. Dad's falling apart. No, we don't have the pastor's permission. Well, I says, we argued a little bit. I went out to work 2 more hours in Kenosha, Wisconsin, to come home to get a better idea, to get a different answer. Nope, she was gone. She moved in with Pat O'Shea, Sr., and so he had two women there in his household there. Anyway, so that after that, I was basically excommunicated. They slammed the door in my face, opened it up, saw me, it was me, slammed the door. So I'm happy to be out of there. It was based on lies. So Danny Lane was just about ready to die, and they needed a new king in their group. So the Jerry Jr. Tinsman went around the ministers in California and said, please vote for Ray, please vote for Ray. Ray is a good, and so they voted Ray into it. Now, was that, if they said Ray was anointed by God, selected by God, or was it voted by man? That's a lie if they were to say it was of God. So, anyhow, the Church of God continued to grow. It's got skeletons. It's based on lies. See the lies? The whole foundation is on lies. The lies got worse. Danny Lane is not the only one that made a bunch of lies. Ray Supreme, Ray Tinsman did a bunch of lies. And the ministers continued lying. Ray is a perfect human being. That's a lie. I owe my life, I owe my soul, I owe my salvation to one man, Ray Tinsman. What kind of blasphemous stuff is that? How long did Ray Tinsman hang on the cross for him? Another man, a woman, cried, oh, God's going to raise up so-and-so. If he doesn't, God's a liar. What kind of blasphemous statement is that? A woman preached that. Another man preached, better than any human being, better than Peter and Paul and even Moses, that part of the Red Sea. That's a lie. They all did miracles. He did not. End of this chapter. Ready. Chapter 10. I want to close it out. Maybe I can get it in this one here. So what else did they say? Every man will bow to Ray Tinsman. That's blasphemous. The Bible says every knee shall bow to Jesus Christ. Here they put Ray in front of him. Even Bill Gates will bow in front of him. That's blasphemous. That's not just a lie. That's blasphemous. There's skeletons hiding underneath that foundation. Problem with, okay, here. The nice, honest thing about it, Patrick O'Shea Jr. preached one message. You know the problem with churches is they preach Christianity. We are not Christianity. We are Layenites. That's the reason we dress the way we do. So they're after this liar that taught meat cleaver and chopped his arm off and still lived and had perfect exterior. That's a lie. So they're building the whole thing on lies. But the nice, honest thing about it is that they admit they are not Christianity. Christianity is Christian. Christian is Christ-like. They are not Christ-like. He admitted that, and that's what the sermon was about. Just agree with us, and you will be sealed. All you have to do is just agree with us. That's wrong. That's a lie. And then pretty soon it became really crazy. Ray Tinsman traveled across time and told John the Revelator. Some other things that happened is one man dressed up as a wizard, one of the top 3, dressed up as a wizard. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter pass through fire, or that uses divination, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with a familiar spirit, or a wizard. And yet this man dressed up as a wizard in front of this Church of God Restoration group, and for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Then he goes ahead, I cast a spell on the congregation. I mean, all these things, it's just crazy. Ray Supreme is the ruler. Skeletons underneath the closet, underneath the foundation. They dress up fancy, but there's a split that's starting to happen. The church is starting to break apart because this wizard, the number 2 guy, Steve, it's falling apart. But one thing, there is a DK, initials DK, preached a wonderful message. If it was just Church of God, it would be all right. But as long as he's preaching for Church of God restoration, it means that all he's doing is putting a cork into this sinking Titanic, this spiritual Titanic. It will not last. It will not go. They need to break away. The bridge is out. Cars are going over the ditch. The souls are dying in this place. Get out of it. Get out of it, my people. Thank you. I just watched the video that I just put out there, and I still feel so burdened about a lot of things I didn't say. One thing, there's going to be individuals, loved ones in this system that are wondering why I'm hacking on the church again. It's because it's built on lies. It's built on lies. The Bible says all liars and lovers of lies will have their part in the lake of fire. I don't want anybody in this group, loved ones, relatives, even my ex. I wish that we had a friendly relationship. We don't have to be friends, but I want friendship. I don't want anybody to be lost. I wish they would pay heed to it and get out of these lies. There's a lot of good messages being sent forth right now within the system to do basically damage control. But it's still based on lies. You have to get out of it. You got to flush the restoration part. You don't restore. You don't repair. You replace. You remove the restoration. Get back to the Church of God foundation. Then it's all right. God added to the church daily as he saw fit. That is the Church of God. Not some name above the board, on the wall, above the door. The Church of God is every blood-washed one across the world. Accountable. It is not from this little group here or a different group. Get back to the basics. Get right with God. And I appreciate DK. I have a very high appreciation for him, but you got to flush. You got to turn on the garbage disposal and get rid of that. You got to get rid of it. You got to flush that toilet of that trash that was there. It's filled full of lies. Ray Tinsman is not a victim of this just because other preachers preached it. Ray Tinsman is accomplice to it. He's a perpetrator of it, where he preached that, so-and-so can't preach it unless I put my approval on it. And he says, I put my approval on it. Therefore, he became an accomplice. And so please get out of it. The reason I did this video is to warn other people to save their souls. Listen to me. And it might cost me something. It might cost friendship with other people. But thank you for listening.